So I want you to imagine standing at the base of this massive 200-meter limestone cliff, and it's the dead of night.
Right, completely dark.
Yeah. And above you, it isn't some, dusty, ruined museum exhibit safely categorized behind glass.
Definitely not.
Above you is a glowing, painted, breathing metropolis
Yeah.
that is, it's actively rewriting the operating system of the human mind.
I love that description.
Today on the Deep Dive, we are completely abandoning the midday heat, the plastic placards, and all those crowds of sunburned tourists. We're journeying into the absolute peak of ancient civilization, not as observers, but as actual participants.
Exactly. We are placing you squarely in the year 430 BC.
Yes.
Pericles is at the very height of his influence, and the city is engaged in this radical, totally unprecedented experiment where ordinary people actually govern themselves.
That's just wild to think about.
Right. It's a society that views the pursuit of breathtaking beauty as equally crucial to its survival as military dominance.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to unlock this experience, we're taking a rather unconventional route today.
We really are.
We're drawing on an incredibly immersive audio journey. It's titled Lose Yourself in Ancient Athens, the City of Gods. And it's from the YouTube channel Lost Worlds for Sleep.
Such a great channel.
It is. But we aren't exploring the daytime version of this world. We are stepping into the space between the waking world and the ancient past. We're going in at night.
And what's fascinating here is that the choice of nighttime fundamentally alters both the physical and the psychological landscape.
How so?
Well, when you explore a city of this magnitude in the dark, you strip away the sheer friction of, thousands of human bodies just going about their commerce and political arguments.
And all that daytime noise.
Exactly. What emerges from the dark is the actual architectural and philosophical skeleton of the city. We are looking at the mechanics of how environment and how carefully engineered silence literally forge human thought.
The entry point to this experience from the source material isn't a grand historical timeline or a map. It's just a door.
A simple door.
Yeah. You place your hand on this sun-bleached wood, smoothed down by generations of use, holding the color of honey, and pushing it open, the first thing that hits you isn't a towering monument. It's a smell.
The sharp iodine salt of the Aegean Sea.
Carried right on the wind. And woven underneath that is the really distinct scent of wild thyme.
Yeah, and that specific scent is actually a product of Mediterranean climate mechanics.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Thyme grows really aggressively on those rocky hillsides, right?
Yeah.
Baking under intense ultraviolet light all afternoon.
Just roasting in the sun.
Exactly. And the heat volatilely extracts the essential oils in the leaves. When the cool night air finally sweeps in, the rapid temperature drop causes the plant to release that concentrated scent all at once.
Wow, so it's a physical reaction.
It is. It
Yeah.
grounds you immediately in a physical reality. You're no longer reading about a place. Your senses are, they're verifying that you occupy it.
So you take a breath of that heavy herbal air, and you realize you are standing at the absolute base of the Acropolis.
The big rock itself.
Right. Looking up, it is a staggering 200 meters of sheer, solid limestone. And the path winding up this rock has been physically carved, not just by the wind, but by 3 centuries of human footsteps.
300 years of sandals just wearing down the stone.
Yeah, it's incredible.
There's actually a very deliberate psychological mechanism at play here when you force the human body to climb before it can, worship or convene.
Like making you work for it.
Right. In environmental psychology, this is known as approaching the monumental.
Approaching monumental. I like that.
A strenuous physical ascent demands a transition in your cognitive state. The sheer cardiovascular effort of moving your own weight up 200 meters of rock forces your focus inward.
Because you're literally just trying to catch your breath.
Exactly. You begin to shed the petty grievances of the day, the argument in the market, the political slight. By the time you reach the summit, the physical exertion has essentially filtered your mind.
It prepares your attention for concepts that are larger than your individual life.
Precisely.
And as you climb, the sprawling city of Athens begins to just fall away below you. In the dark, the homes and streets become this constellation of small, warm flames spread across the plain.
Almost mirroring the sky above.
Yeah. But the ground beneath your feet is doing something unexpected. The limestone path is worn entirely smooth, but it radiates this deep, comforting heat right through the soles of your shoes, even hours after the sun has gone down.
That's the principle of thermal mass.
Thermomass.
Yeah, limestone and marble are highly dense materials with a significant specific heat capacity. For 14 hours, that rock absorbs shortwave solar radiation.
So it acts kind of like an enormous solar battery.
That is the perfect analogy. It is exactly a thermal battery. As the ambient air temperature drops in the evening, the temperature gradient reverses.
And it lets the heat back out.
Right. The stone begins conducting that stored energy back out as long-wave radiation. It feels almost biological, as if the mountain itself is slowly exhaling the memory of the day.
Exhaling the memory of the day. That's beautifully put by the source material. So you carry that radiated warmth with you as you reach the summit and pass through the Propolia.
The Propolia being the monumental gateway to the Acropolis.
Right.
It functions as an architectural airlock. You step between those massive Doric columns, and the acoustics abruptly change.
It's like someone hits the mute button. The ambient noise of the city below is physically blocked by the sheer density of those surrounding stone walls.
It creates this profound engineered silence.
And the moment that noise vanishes, you see it. The Parthenon.
Newly built.
Brand new. 46 hand-carved columns surrounding the inner chamber. Now, our modern minds have been so heavily conditioned to picture ancient Greek architecture as these stark bone-white ruins, right?
We imagine austere, cold marble.
Yeah. But standing there in the dark, in 430 BC, the marble isn't a dead clinical white. It's a warm, luminous white.
Like the surface of the moon.
Yeah, the audio journey describes it perfectly. It says it's the white of a thought right before it solidifies into words.
That's stunning, and that's actually because the Pentelic marble used for the Parthenon contains tiny amounts of iron oxide.
Okay, so it's not pure white.
Right. During the day, sunlight gives it this golden hue, but under the moonlight, those crystalline structures in the stone capture and diffuse the ambient light.
Which makes it look like the building is generating its own subtle illumination against the dark sky.
Exactly. It possesses this staggering potential energy. It isn't just holding up a roof. It is articulating human potential, hovering right on the edge of expression.
But, and this is wild, the serenity of that pale marble is totally shattered when you look up.
Ah, yes, the pediment.
Yeah. Above the column sits the pediment, that triangular upper part, holding the massive statues of the gods. And those statues are not white rock. They are painted in vivid, intense, unignorable colors. Brilliant blues, heavy reds, and pure gold foil, all flickering wildly under the light of surrounding torches.
It's almost jarring if you aren't expecting it.
It almost feels gaudy to a modern eye. Like, why would a society so obsessed with rationality and logic paint their most sacred temple like a bright billboard?
Well, because we have fundamentally sanitized the Greeks to fit a later narrative.
Sanitize them how?
The Renaissance idealized the stripped white ruins they dug up. They basically projected their own desire for pure, detached rationalism onto the ancients.
Oh, so they just ignore the paint flakes.
Pretty much. But the vibrant reds and blues reveal the actual psychological makeup of the Athenians. They were deeply passionate, driven by visceral impact.
They weren't just boring philosophers in togas.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They understood that human beings are not moved by sterile logic alone. The gods towering over you in bright red and gold under torchlight were not meant to be calmly admired.
They were meant to be intimidating.
Intimidating, immediate, and overwhelmingly alive, they demanded to be felt in your chest, not just analyzed in your head.
It is a loud, vibrant declaration of existence. So you sit down, leaning your back against the cool, smooth curve of one of those 46 columns.
Columns carved by people who cared so deeply about permanence that they calculated microscopic optical illusions into the stone.
Right, making the pillars bulge slightly in the middle, just so they would appear perfectly straight from a distance. The obsession with detail is insane.
It really is.
Sitting there, absorbing the quiet of the monumental, you feel a profound sense that just existing in this exact moment is enough.
It is the absolute pinnacle of their religious and civic achievement, yet, human beings cannot permanently inhabit the mountaintop.
No, we have to come back down. Reluctantly, you push off the marble. You carry the physical sensation of the stone on your fingertips and begin the descent.
Leaving the stark silence of the gods.
Returning to the human world. As you drop in elevation, the air thickens again. The sharp salt and thyme are replaced by the rich, heavy smells of an intensely occupied city.
The lingering scent of olive oil from thousands of lamps.
And that dense smell of wood smoke, trapped in the narrow, whitewashed alleyways. You navigate past shuttered windows and heavy wooden doors until the narrow streets suddenly break open.
Depositing you directly into the civic heart of the ancient world, the Agora.
The Agora. This is the ultimate atmospheric pivot, because during the midday heat, the Agora is deafening, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's thousands of human beings pressed together. Merchants shouting prices for figs and slaves, politicians debating military budgets, citizens gossiping.
It's just the entirety of the human experience happening simultaneously in the dirt.
But right now, at midnight,
It is vast, it is breathtakingly silent, and it is pure, uninterrupted open space.
that physical emptiness allows the true architectural function of the space to emerge. The Agora was engineered to facilitate collision.
Collision goods, sure.
Yes, but primarily the collision of ideas. And at the exact geographical and spiritual center of this massive open square sits the altar of the 12 gods.
It's literally the point from which every single distance in the entire region is measured, like a kilometer zero.
Exactly.
And beside this altar, cutting through the dark, is a small, constant flame. This flame is kept alive without interruption by individuals whose entire civic duty is to tend it.
Their only job is to remember that some things cannot be permitted to go dark.
The psychological weight of that space is immense. Standing there in the dark, the architecture acts as an acoustic mirror for history.
Every fundamental question of human organization was debated in that exact dirt. How do we define justice? What constitutes a beautiful life?
What are our obligations to our neighbors? Standing in that empty dirt feels exactly like standing in the center of a massive stadium a few hours after a huge concert has ended.
That's a great way to think about it.
The musicians are gone, the crowds have dispersed, the lights are killed, but the air is still physically vibrating.
You can feel the reverberation of all that accumulated human energy baked into the empty space.
So, seeking a place to absorb all this, you walk over to the base of the Stoa of Zeus.
And the Stoa is a crucial piece of civic technology.
Civic technology, not just a building.
Right. It's a long, covered portico, a walkway protected by a roof and a line of columns, but entirely open to the public square on one side.
Okay.
It provides shade from the brutal Mediterranean sun and shelter from the rain, allowing public life and philosophical debate to continue regardless of the weather.
So it's literally built to keep the conversation going.
Yes, and it encourages a specific rhythmic pacing that actually aids cognitive processing.
Wow. So you find a low marble step at the edge of the Stoa and sit down. A stray cat silently glides across the moonlit plaza, its eyes flashing for a fraction of a second before it vanishes into the shadows.
You're just letting the vast emptiness of the Agora enter you.
Not as a feeling of isolation, though, but as a feeling of immense spaciousness. And then the silence is broken by the sound of footsteps.
Pacing steadily out of the dark.
Yeah. The footsteps belong to a man who is neither rushing nor strolling. It is the deliberate rhythm of a man who walks because it physically aids his thinking.
And who cannot stop thinking long enough to stop walking.
Exactly. He emerges from the direction of the potter's quarter. This is Socrates.
The man himself.
And visually, he defies every single expectation of a majestic marble statue philosopher.
He really does. He is remarkably short. He is heavily built, stocky, with a broad, flat nose.
Basically, he's kind of ugly by their standards.
Oh, absolutely. But his eyes are massive, incredibly sharp, and they miss absolutely nothing.
He's wearing a coarse, simple tunic, likely the same one he wears every single day, regardless of the season.
His physical appearance is a total manifestation of his radical detachment from material status. I mean, he claims no property. He refuses to write down a single word.
He insists that he possesses no actual knowledge.
Right. He seeks only the quiet of the night, the vastness of the empty agora, and the uninterrupted space to dismantle the assumptions of the world.
So he stops dead in the center of the square. He plants his feet in the dirt and stares up at the luminous white columns of the Parthenon resting against the star-filled sky.
And he stands there, completely motionless, for a very long time.
The citizens of Athens are well aware of this habit, right?
Oh, yeah. He's known to freeze in place for hours at a time, so profoundly locked inside a complex thought that his awareness of the physical world simply shuts down.
The societal friction generated by this single human being, I mean, it cannot be overstated.
No. You have to contextualize him within 430 BC Athens. This is a hyper-ambitious, highly competitive, status-obsessed imperial power.
Wealth, rhetorical skill, and political influence are the ultimate currency.
And into this high-stakes environment walks a man with no shoes, who owns nothing, who completely refuses to participate in the pursuit of power.
Instead, he corners powerful politicians, wealthy merchants, and celebrated generals in the daylight,
Relentlessly forcing them to define the exact nature of virtue or justice.
usually publicly humiliating them by exposing the hollow contradictions in their logic.
Right, which is why the Athenians were deeply torn. Half the city viewed his relentless questioning as the absolute highest form of civic duty.
And the other half viewed him as the most dangerous, infuriating threat to their way of life. I mean, I can completely understand the anger. You are rushing across the Agora to secure a military contract, and this barefoot guy stops you to demand you logically prove that your ambition isn't actually destroying your soul.
It would be maddening.
But tonight, in the quiet, the friction is gone. He finally breaks his trance. He turns, walks over to the stoa of Zeus, and sits down on the same long marble step as you.
But he doesn't crowd you.
No, he leaves a deliberate, respectful gap. It's the specific kind of physical space offered by someone who understands that sometimes letting another person breathe is the most generous act possible.
I love that detail.
He looks out over the dark, empty square, and quietly, speaking almost to himself, he utters the concept that will anchor Western philosophy for the next 2 millennia.
He says the unexamined life is not worth living.
Stripped of the textbook formatting, spoken quietly in the cool night air.
Just a thought shared between two people in the dark.
He lets the weight of the sentence hang there. Then he turns his head, looks at you with those intensely curious eyes, and offers a warm smile.
And he says, you are examining your life right now, in the dark, in the quiet. That is enough. That is more than enough.
And with that, he pushes himself up from the stone and walks back into the shadows. Now, I want to pause here and challenge this interpretation for a second.
Okay, let's do it.
In the context of sitting under the stars, his words feel like a profound comfort. It feels like permission to just exist.
Right.
But if we actually look at the mechanics of the phrase, the unexamined life is not worth living, isn't that a massive, almost terrifying demand on the human psyche?
It absolutely is. It's the ultimate dual-edged sword, functioning simultaneously as grace and obligation.
How do you mean?
Well, the comfort lies in what it dismantles. Socrates is removing the crushing societal pressure of material achievement.
Oh, because he's not saying the unwealthy life is worthless.
Exactly. Nor the unfamous life. He democratizes the criteria for a meaningful existence. A slave can examine their life just as thoroughly as Pericles.
That's a great point. But the demand part.
You are entirely correct about the demand. Examining your life requires a brutal, relentless intellectual honesty. It means you cannot utilize cognitive dissonance to sleepwalk through your daily routines.
You are obligated to actively interrogate your own biases.
Yes. To question why you desire what you desire, and to evaluate if your actions actually align with your stated morals, that process is exhausting, deeply uncomfortable.
So where's the grace in that?
The specific grace he offers in this nighttime encounter is the reassurance that you do not need to possess the final answers.
Oh, so just trying is enough.
The rigorous, quiet attempt to understand yourself, the willingness to sit in the dark and hold the questions, fulfills the demand. The act of examining is the victory itself.
The asking of the question fulfills the requirement. That completely shifts the burden.
It really does.
Taking that grace with you, the journey pulls you up from the marble step of the Stoa. We transition from the quiet introspection of the individual mind to the explosive, collective emotional processing of the entire city.
We're heading to the theater.
Yes.
Yeah.
You leave the Agora, walking south along the base of the Acropolis, till the terrain opens up into a massive, carved bowl in the earth. You have arrived at the birthplace of empathy, the theater of Dionysus.
And it is vital to emphasize the word birthplace here.
Why is that?
This is not a venue where an existing art form was, refined. This specific geographical location is where the fundamental mechanics of theater were invented.
Invented from scratch.
Yes. Prior to this space being engineered into the southern cliff face, the concept of thousands of humans sitting in a designated structure to watch fictionalized avatars act out a narrative, specifically to recognize their own psychological struggles mirrored back at them, did not exist.
That is staggering to think about. And the scale of the physical space is staggering in the moonlight, too. 17,000 individual seats carved from stone, rising in a steep, sweeping semicircle up the slope of the hill.
The limestone rows glow with a pale silver hue in the dark.
Down at the very bottom, framing the edge of the circular stage, is the front row. These seats are equipped with actual stone backs and armrests, reserved exclusively for the priests of Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, and theater.
And if you look closely in the dark, you can see the specific titles of the priests meticulously carved deep into the marble of each chair.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The physical architecture of the theater.
Ah, yes. It was an engineering marvel designed to manipulate sound.
The ancient Greeks understood acoustics on a level that still baffles modern architects, right?
Completely. The steep angle of the seating, combined with the specific density of the limestone, created a passive acoustic filter.
A passive acoustic filter, like it filtered out bad noise.
Exactly. The stone seats actually acted to absorb low-frequency background noise, the rustling of 17,000 robes, the wind, the low murmur of the crowd.
While simultaneously amplifying high-frequency sounds, like the human voice.
Right. A single actor speaking in a normal register from the exact center of the orchestra could be heard with crystal clarity by a citizen sitting in the absolute top row.
Wow. So you walk down the silver steps and take a seat in one of those front row chairs. Before you is the orchestra, not a band pit, but the flat, circular earth where the action happened.
And right now, it is completely empty and still.
Looking out over that vast, dark bowl, you realize the overwhelming historical mass of the ground you were sitting on. This is the exact dirt where Sophocles debuted Oedipus Rex.
Where Aeschylus and Aristophanes launched ideas that would outline the boundaries of tragedy and comedy forever.
And the functional mechanics of these plays relied heavily on the chorus.
Yes, the chorus was essential. They were a group of performers who moved and spoke in perfect unison within that circular orchestra.
They weren't just background singers, though.
No, they functioned as an emotional proxy for the audience.
How did that work?
Well, the narratives of these tragedies dealt with impossible moral dilemmas, crushing grief, and divine retribution. When the emotional weight on stage became too complex or devastating for the average citizen to process, the chorus would step in.
They provided the psychological framework.
Literally telling the audience how to feel, voicing the terror or pity that the audience was experiencing but just couldn't articulate themselves.
If you look at the mechanics of this, the Greek theater operates flawlessly as an empathy machine.
An empathy machine.
Yeah, like it was a piece of civic technology explicitly built to upgrade the compassion of its citizens.
That's a profound way to look at it. Athens was an imperial power constantly engaged in brutal warfare.
Right, the citizens voting on military action in the assembly were the exact same citizens holding the spears on the battlefield. They were hardened.
Very hard.
And the source journey points out that these tragedies were designed to systematically break the audience's hearts. You watch a hero make a catastrophic, prideful mistake, and you watch them lose everything.
The play breaks your heart, but the communal experience of the theater puts it back together in a slightly altered shape.
It stretches the emotional capacity of the citizen. Suddenly, they leave the theater with an expanded psychological architecture that has more room to hold the pain, the joy, and the devastating complexities of other people's lives.
That's the mechanism of catharsis. By experiencing extreme pity and fear in a simulated environment, surrounded by 17,000 of your peers, all experiencing the exact same emotions, the society collectively purged its accumulated psychological tension.
They bonded over their shared vulnerability to fate.
Exactly.
And the audio journey perfectly isolates the physical sensation of that space at rest. The wind sweeps down the hillside, moving through the empty stone rows like a long exhalation.
It is the specific heavy silence that exists in a room after an incredibly profound story has just ended, but before the audience has remembered to resume breathing.
It is a space holding the echo of every tear shed and every laugh barked into the night air.
It is another liminal space, a vessel waiting to be filled, holding the exact same potential energy as the luminous white marble of the Parthenon resting above it.
And the visual juxtaposition from where you are sitting is striking. You lean back in the stone chair. High above you, lit by the moon, is the Parthenon, the ultimate symbol of mathematical permanence, rigid structure, and unyielding stone.
But directly below you is the orchestra.
The realm of temporary, highly emotional, shifting human voices, the permanent realm of the gods stacked directly on top of the messy, fleeting realm of human feeling.
The geography perfectly mirrors the dual nature of their existence. Humans are entirely transient, governed by shifting emotions and fragile bodies.
Yet we possess the astonishing capability to engineer structures and conceptual frameworks that outlast our physical forms by millennia.
It's quite a paradox.
But, the luxury of sitting in a theater, analyzing empathy, or pacing a marble stoa debating virtue, it does not exist in a vacuum.
Definitely not. It requires immense wealth.
It requires rigid protection. It requires a harsh, muscular reality to fund the philosophy. And so the journey forces you to leave the quiet bowl of the theater.
You are guided away from the realm of ideas, walking south.
Following the trajectory of the massive defensive walls toward the gritty lifeline of the empire, we are heading down the long walls to the port of Piraeus.
And the long walls were an astonishing logistical and military achievement.
Tell us about them.
They consisted of two parallel, heavily fortified stone walls stretching roughly 5 kilometers, creating a secure, enclosed corridor directly linking the inland city of Athens to its coastal port, Piraeus.
So it's like a massive hallway to the ocean.
Pretty much. This meant that even if a Spartan army completely besieged the city of Athens by land, the Athenians could not be starved out. They could securely walk to their port and import grain from across the sea indefinitely.
Wow. You walk down this wide, packed dirt corridor in the dark. The only sound is the occasional heavy wooden wheel of a supply cart echoing off the stone fortifications.
But as you cover the distance, the sensory environment drastically shifts.
Oh, completely. You lose the dry, herbal smell of thyme and the rich wood smoke of the city. The air temperature drops and the humidity spikes. The atmosphere becomes heavy and dense.
You smell the intense brine of the sea.
But mixed into it is the unmistakable smell of dead fish, the sharp chemical bite of boiling pitch and tar used to seal wood.
And the distinct damp smell of miles of wet hemp rope drying in the night air.
The auditory landscape shifts from silence to the rhythmic creaking of heavy timber flexing in the water, the slap of waves against wooden hulls, and the low, coarse voices of men working through the night.
You step out of the corridor, and the port of Piraeus opens up before you.
Piraeus in 430 BC was the undisputed epicenter of ancient maritime logistics, wasn't it?
The sheer density of ships moored in the harbor would be overwhelming. The masts of hundreds of vessels form a dense, leafless forest silhouetted against the night sky.
It's like a combination of JFK Airport and the Pentagon, the ultimate hub of ancient globalization and defense.
That's exactly what it was.
Bobbing in the dark water are massive merchant freighters. Ships that have navigated from the mouth of the Nile in Egypt, from the coast of Persia, from Sicily, from the distant shores of the Black Sea.
Their hulls are packed with thousands of tons of grain to feed the city.
They carry amphorae sloshing with wine and olive oil. They hold tightly bound rolls of silk and heavy ingots of silver.
But crucially, as they unload these physical goods, they are also unloading external ideas, foreign mathematics, and new religious concepts.
Yet, separated from the merchant vessels, housed in massive covered stone slipways, rests the true mechanism of Athenian dominance, the triremes.
The apex predators of the Aegean.
Looking at them in the dark, they are terrifying. They are incredibly long and built very low to the water. And jutting out from the front, resting just exactly at the waterline, are massive, heavy bronze rams.
These are the exact class of warships that decimated the Persian fleet at the Battle of Salamis.
The victory that effectively saved Western civilization in its crib.
And the mechanics of a trireme are essential to understand. They were not powered by the wind during combat. They were powered by 170 human rowers stacked in 3 vertical tiers.
Just raw human power.
Yes. The synchronization required to row without shattering the oars of the man next to you demanded intense discipline. And the bronze ram wasn't designed to simply poke a hole in an enemy ship.
Right, it wasn't a fencing match.
No, the trireme would accelerate to ramming speed upwards of 10 knots. The impact of hundreds of pounds of bronze striking a wooden hull at that speed transferred massive kinetic energy,
Physically shattering the structural timbers of the enemy vessel and causing it to violently take on water.
The sound of splintering wood and the sheer violence of that naval maneuver secured the maritime empire.
So, connecting the dots here, the entire Athenian experiment relies on a vital dual identity.
They needed both sides.
Yeah, we just spent hours absorbing the profound intellectual heights of the Acropolis and the deep civic empathy of the theater. But none of that functions without the brutal, mercantile, and military engine of Piraeus.
Not at all.
The astronomical funds required to carve the columns of the Parthenon, the surplus leisure time that permitted Socrates to wander the Agora instead of farming for survival.
Even the civic treasury that paid for the massive theatrical festival.
Right. Every single ounce of that cultural capital was financed by the wet rope, the boiling tar, and the devastating kinetic energy of those bronze rams. Philosophy was literally subsidized by naval dominance.
Piraeus is the muscular, pragmatic anchor that prevents the lofty ideas of Athens from floating away into mere theory.
It's the circulatory system of the empire.
And keeping that system alive are the sailors.
You see them sitting on wooden crates near the water's edge in the moonlight. These are men with faces deeply weathered by salt and ultraviolet light.
They have a very specific, wide-stanced gait, conditioned by years of expecting the solid ground beneath them to violently pitch and roll.
They carry the vastness of the known world inside their own muscle memory. They have navigated the terrifying storms off the Cape, and they have stared at the deep, terrifying blue of the open Aegean.
And beyond the sailors, the audio journey directs your attention to the harbor itself. It utilizes a profound metaphor describing the water as a living entity that is breathing.
Oh yeah, the slow, rhythmic, hypnotic swelling of the tide pushing in against the stone docks and pulling back out.
The water catching the moonlight on the swell and releasing it in a slow, patient silver flash as it recedes.
That rhythmic movement provides a massive, humbling sense of perspective. The Aegean Sea was executing that exact same slow, rhythmic breathing millions of years before the first trireme was built.
Before the first stone was cut for the Parthenon.
Before any human consciousness stood on the shore and wondered what existed over the horizon.
It firmly grounds human ambition within deep geological time.
I want to push on a concept here, though. When we stand on that dock, smelling the tar and looking at these sailors who have interacted with Egypt, Persia, and the Black Sea.
Yeah.
When we recognize the massive, interconnected global web that Piraeus represents, how does that square with the famous concept of Athenian exceptionalism?
That's a great question.
Because we are constantly taught about their insular pride, their belief that their city-state was uniquely superior to the rest of the world. But standing in the port, they seem incredibly dependent on the outside world.
Well, that tension defines their brilliance. Their exceptionalism was not born out of isolation. It was forged entirely by friction.
Friction from the port.
Because Piraeus was the ultimate maritime hub, Athens was subjected to a relentless influx of foreign others. They absorbed Egyptian engineering, Persian administrative concepts, and Ionian natural philosophy.
So they weren't just inventing everything in a vacuum.
No. The genius of Athens was their ability to act as the great synthesizers. They took the raw material and raw ideas flowing through Piraeus and relentlessly refined them in the crucible of the Agora until they produced something uniquely their own.
Democracy, tragic theater, Socratic inquiry.
Right. They were proud not because they were isolated, but because they believed they were the central node capable of perfecting what the rest of the world merely originated.
They were the ultimate filter. As you sit on the edge of the damp stone pier, your breathing begins to naturally synchronize with the slow, ancient in-and-out rhythm of the tide.
The hypnotic pull of the dark water begins to drag the night toward its absolute lowest point.
The atmosphere in the air fundamentally shifts again. The deep dive pulls you away from the harbor, guiding you back up the long road, returning you to the base of the great limestone rock for the final cosmic transition.
The dawn of the gray-eyed goddess.
The pre-dawn hours possess a unique atmospheric physics. The source meticulously notes that the environment of Athens at 4:00 a.m. is texturally different from Athens at midnight.
The dark literally feels heavier.
It has a different density. It is as if the night is contracting, gathering all of its remaining energy into one final, dense mass before it is forced to surrender to the sun.
You find a smooth, cool stone bench resting at the bottom of the Acropolis.
You sit down, tip your head back, and look up at the sky. Away from the glare of modern light pollution, the sheer volume of stars is staggering. And there is a critical distinction to make here.
Because to us, living in modern illuminated cities, stars are primarily decorative.
Right, they're pretty lights we occasionally notice. But to the mind of an ancient Athenian,
The stars are critical infrastructure. They are a massive rotating database.
The Athenians utilized the precise position of specific constellations to navigate fleets across open oceans without landmarks.
They track the rising of certain stars to know the exact week to plant wheat or harvest olives. They read the sky to tell time in the darkest hours.
The stars were not a backdrop. They were, as beautifully described, the writing of something vastly larger than human existence, scrawled directly onto the ceiling of the world.
I am fascinated by the idea of the night sky as an operational manual.
You are sitting there, reading the ceiling of the world, when the auditory transition begins. The dawn chorus.
It does not start as a symphony.
No. It starts with one single isolated bird call, originating from the silver leaves of an olive tree. One clear, sharp note dropped into the heavy silence, like a question being asked into the dark.
A moment passes. And then from a different tree, another bird answers. And then another.
The audio journey makes the brilliant observation that this is the precise mechanical way that all massive paradigm shifts begin, one voice at a time.
One dangerous question asked by a stocky man in the dirt of the Agora.
One radical idea about governing. It starts with a single voice, and it builds and builds until the entire world is vibrating with the sound.
It is the auditory mirror of the Athenian intellectual awakening. And seamlessly following the auditory shift comes the visual threshold. The light.
The precise, profoundly delicate moment of transition. The absolute blackness of the sky begins to soften.
It shifts into a highly specific color that exists strictly in the margin between night and morning.
It is not black, but it is not yet the pale blue of day. The Athenians, naturally, had a conceptual framework for this specific visual phenomenon.
They identified this pre-dawn color as the exact color of the eyes of their patron deity.
The light of the gray-eyed goddess, Athena. And as that gray light bleeds across the sky, the Parthenon above you reacts.
It loses its luminous moon-white glow and shifts into a quiet, pale, waiting gray.
It is physically bracing itself for the incoming impact of the golden sun.
To understand the philosophical weight of dawn, you must view it as the ultimate liminal space. It is the absolute razor-thin threshold between the memory of what was and the potential of what will be.
The journey makes a profoundly insightful observation here. The most important concepts in human existence rarely announce themselves with trumpets, and they rarely have simple names.
They enter human consciousness slowly, subconsciously. They seep in through the pores of the skin, through the residual heat of the limestone, through the steady rhythm of breath.
Sitting in that gray light, you are physically absorbing the permanence of the city at the exact millisecond the day is renewing itself.
And as the sky continues to lighten, taking on the true color of Athena's eyes, the stars begin to vanish.
The faint stars resting near the horizon are erased first, followed slowly by the brighter ones overhead. They withdraw into the brightening sky.
But the crucial realization is that they haven't gone anywhere.
No, they are merely hiding behind the blue, patiently waiting for the dark to return so they can be seen again.
It's such a powerful image.
I look at those fading stars, and I see the exact mechanism of the ancient ideas themselves. The profound inquiries into justice we discussed in the dirt of the Agora, the radical expansion of empathy engineered in the stone theater.
When the glaring, noisy, hyper-connected light of our modern day takes over, those ancient concepts seem to vanish. We become blind to them in the noise of the present.
But they are still there. They are permanently fixed, spinning just behind the blue sky, waiting for us to secure a quiet, dark moment to look up and realize they never left us.
That perfectly articulates the core thesis of the journey, the tension between fleeting memory and absolute permanence.
This deep dive does not frame your time in Athens as a vivid dream that evaporates the moment you open your eyes. It frames the experience as an architectural ingestion.
The sheer verticality of the Acropolis, the deliberate friction of Socrates, the acoustic empathy of the theater, the heavy salt of the breathing harbor, it asserts that these elements are now physically inside you.
They have become a permanent structural addition to your own psychological framework. You walk away possessing the unmistakable grounding sensation that, last night, I was actually there.
As the birds fully populate the air with sound, and the sun crests the horizon to finally strike the Pentelic marble of the Parthenon in an explosive blaze of gold, the ancient city fully wakes up.
But you, the traveler, are quietly slipping away into the blue of the morning.
Which leaves us with a final, vital concept to evaluate. At the conclusion of the journey, a powerful declaration is made. Athens lives in the only place that anything truly lives, in the minds of those who pay attention.
In the minds of those who pay attention.
The physical stone may weather, the bronze rams may corrode at the bottom of the sea, but the city persists strictly through the focused attention of those willing to walk its streets in the dark.
So if we extrapolate this mechanic to our current existence, if the monumental legacy of ancient Athens relies on our willingness to pause in the silence and engage with its monumental questions, what exactly are we currently engineering that will survive the same test?
That is the big question. 2.5 millennia from today, what specific ideas, what architectural spaces, or what cultural frameworks from our modern world will possess enough inherent value to warrant someone breathing them in during the quiet gray hours of their own night?
Are we constructing anything today that will serve as a thermal battery, storing up enough light and heat to warm a stranger 2,500 years in the future?
It's something to sit with.
Tonight, a heavy wooden door swung open. It deposited you into the specific dirt and stone of the city that fundamentally rewired human history. And it offered a profound reassurance. No matter how chaotic, deafening, or overwhelming the modern world becomes, there is always a safe, quiet, and ancient space waiting to absorb your exhaustion.
Always.
If you want to physically experience this transition, if you want to discover a new, meticulously engineered door to an ancient world every single night, you must subscribe to the Lost Worlds for Sleep YouTube channel. Let the architecture of the past come to you automatically.
Highly recommend it.
And as we leave you in the gray light of dawn, remember that the most beautiful aspects of the human experience rarely exist in the glaring light of certainty. They live in the shadows of the Stoa. They live in the questions that refuse to be cleanly answered, and in the profound, heavy silence that falls just before the next great story begins. Sleep well, traveler. You were actually there.